Hello everyone, my name is Auro and welcome to the 9th devlog of More to Glory 2, a turn-based gladiator roguelike. And let's get started right away. This time the first thing I decided to work on was the in-game event system. This is a staple in many modern indie games and it was also in More to Glory 1. So the basic idea is you have a scenario, for example, some mysterious person approaches you and then you have different options to choose from, usually giving you various different kinds of rewards based on the choices you make. So to enable the feature I just work on the different pieces one by one, have a picture visible, have a main text field visible, have a section where you can have a different amount of text options that you can customize based on the event. Then I this time also decided to have these like object choices. For example, maybe the event gives you a choice like, okay, take this fancy sword, or then you have some like text options. So I decided maybe you can just see the sword right away, you can have a tooltip, see all the stats, and then decide if you want the sword or go with the text options. So yeah, I have the object choices and then of course the leave button. Then I added a bit of code to actually put some logic behind it all, mostly to enable different rewards. So there are, for example, the gold reward, then there's the equipment reward, then there's a character reward, and then there are also these different like non-visual rewards, so to say. So for example, unlock a new event that you can maybe then encounter next time you have an event in the game, and then also a continuation event. So basically it just jumps into a new event. That's so that it's easier for me to actually implement the different events, so I can have them as separate events. But yeah, adding all this was pretty straightforward as I had the same system in place in More to Glory 1, so there wasn't too much thinking needed on the design side, so it was easy to add. The visuals I will still improve later on, but at this point I'm just interested in having the actual functionality in place. Then next I started thinking about the shops in the game. So in the first one I had this town scene where you have like item shop and then there's the recruitment shop place. But in this one I decided to go into a bit different direction. So instead of having this town where you can handle all this, I figured I would have it as have this like different shops on the map scene that I currently have, kind of like this latest Spyro kind of map. So yeah, different shops would be different nodes on this map. For that I need to do some thinking. What would these shops contain and what would be the best way to kind of like combine the different features these shops will have? For example, I have the basic like equipment, swords and armors and all that stuff, but then I might also have this like relics kind of thing, like an equipable item, but that is somewhat different still from normal equipment. And then I might have this like stat boosting items, then there are the characters, and yeah, maybe I might also have something different. Oh yeah, the spell books. So yeah, all that stuff. Decision at this point that I made was basically have each shop contain kind of like 2 elements, and if I remember correctly, it was kind of like this equipment shop that also had this like magic relics. Then I had the recruitment shop, where I also have this stat boosting items that will target the units, so they kind of go together. And then there would also be this magic shop where you can get skills, and maybe that would also have like this different magic type relics or something like that. So I would have 3 shops in total, and at least currently this is the kind of like the idea I'm going with. Of course I will need to see how it actually works in the game, if it's too many shops or how it works. Yeah, I can always combine them into one if needed, if that feels better in the game. When compared to the first game, More to Glory, this time I also decided to have this reroll button, which I'm sure many players will enjoy. It makes the item hunting a bit easier and more pleasant. So yeah, if the shop doesn't have those items that you want, you can just press the reroll button, pay a little bit to do that, and you get new choices. And the gist behind that also is that the reroll will get more expensive if you use it. So you can't do it endlessly, but still it will grant you more options to choose from. Then after I had the shopping functionality in a somewhat nice functional state, I decided to work next on the character roster. So a place where you can see all the units you currently have in your team, or basically that belong to your company, so to say. The main problem that I had with this was that how to nicely pack all the needed data in small enough of a space, but still have it like visually clear. What you see on the screen is the current layout that I went with, trying to fit all the most important information just in one view that you can see at once, and kind of compare the characters to each other, and also be able to immediately see like which character would benefit the most from a specific item, like a fancy sword or something, which character you want to equip it to. And for that purpose I also decided that okay, this one screen would also have the roster, kind of like the bench, so the characters that are not in your main battle team. So you can easily switch between the characters that are in your main team or in the roster. And also I decided to have the inventory also in the same screen, so yeah, the equipping can also happen in the same view, not have to go to a specific different window to do that. And while I very likely will have to adjust the visuals later on, this is just the first iteration, but yeah, I think it looks decent and functional. But I would also love to hear what you think, if you think it's missing something obvious, or if you think it's very ugly or something. Let me know in the comments. Then next I started working on a necessary but kind of a boring feature to implement, and that was dragging. So as in the first game, I wanted to enable items and characters to be dragged from one place to another, but despite having this feature in the first game, I didn't want to copy paste this feature from the first one, because in the first game I actually had this very annoying bug that only occasionally showed up, but it's still I got still many reports from players that it was happening, but I had no idea why it was happening. So very rarely and randomly, when you were tracking an item or a character, it just froze in the middle of the screen, kind of like, no, very in particular, the dragging just stopped, but the functionality that should happen at the end of tracking didn't happen at all. So you could like resolve that by just like closing the run and loading it again, so that everything went back as it was. But then if you start like maybe tracking some more or doing some other tasks, it could result in you losing the item or the character completely. So yeah, obviously that was annoying, and I many times tried to debug that, but no, I couldn't find out what caused it. So this time, in order to prevent this kind of a bug, I kind of went with the approach that more things would happen on the code and data side. Just have the tracking itself be very minimal in what it can actually do and handle, and all the actual logic is somewhere safe where this kind of errors in the tracking, whatever caused it, could not cause any issues. At least I'm hoping that will be the case and I won't have to deal with the same bug again. But yeah, I did that, and I also implement the tracking for the characters, and I also handled all the boring stuff of updating the stats and updating the places where the stuff needs to be, and yeah, all that stuff. It was boring, but I got it done. Then I decided to add this cell functionality in the same view. So previously I think I had the cell function in the shop itself, which is very intuitive and logical, but since in this one, if I plan to not have the shop available at all times, I decided I should have it in the inventory itself, so you can always sell. For example, if you have too many items, you want to get rid of some, it would be very annoying if you could not do that whenever. Then some tooltip improvements. I actually show the important stats with the items, and also I added this special character tooltip. So instead of showing a normal tooltip to show the stats of the character, I decided to use the same prefab of what I have in the team section to have the same window for one character to show all the important stats and skills and equipment and all that stuff. Then one small but kind of important quality of life thing, I also enabled double click to equip and unequip items and characters. Later on I might also add this one click and then second click to the target. Then you have 3 ways of doing it: dragging it, double clicking it, or once click and then click to another place. So I figured in this case all players would be happy to move stuff in the exact way they want. Then one important functionality I needed to add was these usable items. So for example, spell books that will teach you a spell, or items that will give you more stats. Maybe you drink some super cool elixir and you get strength out of it, or whatever. And finally, still sticking to the same view, I wanted to add these different small functionalities that you can do with the characters. So yeah, currently there's only 2, so you can rename a character. Some players really enjoy that, being able to have funny names or whatnot. And then a more functional ability to be able to forget a skill. So yeah, I think in this one you will also be able to have just 4 skills like in the first one. So obviously if you want to learn a new skill, it's a very important thing to be able to forget an existing skill. And that's actually everything I have for this devlog. As usual, I would love to hear what you think about these things I showed you. If you have any opinions or improvement suggestions, all that stuff I would love to hear in the comments below this video. And yeah, hey, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.